Good morning, my friends. How are you? I am continuing our daily conversation here and addressing what we can do to minimize the damage from this COVID-19 pandemic. And today I want to share with you some insights from some modeling and some research that the Chopra Foundation and the Chopra Library are doing on systemic inflammation, the role of what are called inflammatory or cytokine storms in creating biological damage in our body as a result of the viral infection, and what we can do to mitigate both the morbidity and mortality from the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot has been said and a lot is being said in the media about measures to prevent transmission of the virus. Principally, social physical distancing and proper hygiene, washing hands, not touching the face, not touching the nose, and basically good practices of hygiene to prevent the transmission of the virus from person to person. All those are very important measures, and I'm sure a lot of people are abiding by these principles. And in places where they are abiding with these principles, the transmission is definitely slowing down. Not enough, but slowing down. But today I want to talk to you about integrative approaches to both enhancing our immunity and also for minimizing damage from acute inflammation, or what is called an inflammatory cytokine storm that seems to precede the severe respiratory distress that happens in some patients. So what I'm sharing with you right now is available, by the way, on the Chopra Foundation website. So do check in the choprafoundation.org website. It's here, and the information I'm going to share with you is over there in greater detail. And also check out the Chopra Library .org, where a lot of information is available. Right now, there are many scientists doing computer modeling for the spread of the disease. But we are also engaging at the Chopra Foundation with the task force that includes eminent scientists like Dr. Rudy Tanzi from Harvard University and Mass General Hospital. He does genetics. He's in charge of a genetics lab over there. He's actually created a human brain in his lab. He's written 3 books with me: The Healing Self, Super Brains, Super Genes. And along with him and Michelle Williams, who's the Dean of Harvard School of Public Health, and also with Paul Mills, the Director of Research at the Chopra Foundation and also head of the Center for Excellence at UCSD Medical School, Public Health. Along with him and our amazing research librarians, William Bushell, who's a medical anthropologist, and Ryan, who is Ryan Castle, who is the head librarian of the Chopra Library. We've been putting together not only computer modeling, but correlation between inflammation, inflammatory damage, COVID-19, morbidity, mortality, and what we can do to minimize the inflammatory damage which precedes a lot of the severe respiratory damage that occurs in COVID-19 infected patients. So what can we do to minimize inflammation? What can we do to maximize our immune capacity? So I'm just going to read to you a few notes from the Integrative Interventions for COVID-19, a Chopra Library brief, which you can find both on the Chopra Foundation website and also on the Chopra Library website. So here are some basic facts that seem to be emerging. COVID-19 has an approximate mortality rate of 3% if you look at all the data, which is heavily dependent on age and pre-existing conditions. This rate is very serious, but the true danger lies in its threat to healthcare systems. COVID-19 is highly contagious with a very high transmission, much more than the regular corona flu associated virus. For comparison, the flu has an RO, which means any infected person likely to infect other people. So COVID-19 has an RO of 2.2 other people. The flu has an RO of 1.3. Up to 20% of Americans catch the flu every year, and vaccines have kept that rate from being more. An average of 26% of those infected by COVID-19 require hospitalization, which is huge, and approximately 8% can go into critical condition. Unlike the mortality rate, these rates are not heavily dependent on age. Nearly all age groups experience significant rates of lengthy hospitalization. So, no healthcare system anywhere is prepared to deal with a disease that infects 60% of the population and puts 26% of the infected into that hospital. The US has enough hospital beds for only 0.3% of the population. So, why am I sharing this with you? The reason I'm sharing this with you is it has come to light that both in chronic illness, which includes things like diabetes, cancer, autoimmune illnesses, other chronic illnesses associated with, say, obesity or inflammation, there's an element, and this is true of, as I said, hypertension, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. There is a baseline low-grade inflammation. But in people infected with COVID, there is something that happens that actually precipitates acute morbidity, acute illness. And this something that is being looked at is referred to as a cytokine storm. So cytokines are inflammatory markers in the body. You can measure them in the blood. And there are various kinds of cytokines, and they all are basically measures of the inflammatory response in the body. And if you want to know more details about this, do check out our foundation site. But it's now becoming obvious that acute crisis, especially lung crisis, and other damage to organs in the body is associated with systemic inflammation and what is referred to as an inflammatory or cytokine storm. Critical condition rates are also spread among different demographic groups, with a significant increase in older groups and those with pre-existing conditions. This is likely because higher rates of inflammation accelerate the progression to cytokine storms that damage the respiratory system and require critical care. Levels of systemic inflammation are the common thread between COVID-19's hospitalization rate, rate of critical condition, mortality rates, comorbidities, and prevalence among different demographics. Those with systemic inflammation are the most likely to also have severe morbidity and possibly mortality because their systems are already out of homeostasis. It's like trying to walk a tightrope with a dumbbell attached to one end of the balancing pole. So what can we do? And what I'm going to say right now may seem very unconventional from a mainstream point of view. And one can easily be accused of dispensing placebos. Never mind that placebos act through biological responses, not through magic. But notwithstanding all the criticism regarding alternative approaches or integrative approaches, but looking at what can really benefit and where the data stands, here are some very healthy approaches to maximizing your capacity, your immune capacity, and minimizing systemic inflammation. Some of these approaches I have addressed before, but today I'm going to give you some approaches that come from both Ayurveda, the non-dual traditions, the consciousness traditions that hold consciousness to be fundamental and to all experience and all reality, consciousness being the knowing element in every experience, consciousness being, as my friend Rupert Spira says, that in which all experience occurs, all experience is known, and out of which all experience is made. When we understand that, then we also understand that the mind and body and the experience of the physical world are all unified expressions of modes of knowing and experience in consciousness, and that consciousness modulates itself both into mental experience, emotional experience, perceptual experience that we end up calling mind, body, and the world. So that's heavy, but it's pure Vedanta and pure non-dual understanding of reality. So given that framework, let me share with you the following techniques to minimize inflammation and maximize your immune capacity. Number one, shift to awareness. Again, shift to awareness in every experience. So there is experience and there's the awareness in which experience happens. The experience always is in the form of sensations, perceptions, images, feelings, thoughts. It's both mental and what we call biological. So when you're stressed, for example, and you have sympathetic overdrive, your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate speeds up, inflammatory markers go up, pupils dilate, platelets get sticky, etc., leading to immunocompromisation, leading to endocrine imbalance. That's when we identify with the experience. The pandemic experience is an experience. That's a real experience, but it's also an experience that creates fear, and fear and stress create biological damage. So in any situation, if you shift from the experience to the awareness in which experience is happening, then you realize that awareness by itself is undisturbed. Awareness by itself is homeostasis. Awareness by itself is self-regulating. And awareness by itself is intrinsically free from the experience. So whenever you feel fear or stress, shift from the experience which is happening in your body as biological distress and shift to the awareness in which experience is happening. So shift from focused awareness to which is distress, to field awareness, which is infinite, pure being. And I can say much more about this, and I can share many more techniques to do this. But for right now, you can shift any moment from the experience to the awareness in which experience is happening. Technique number 1, to minimize inflammation and maximize homeostasis, because pure awareness is perfect homeostasis and self-regulation. Number 2 technique, cultivate divine emotions at all times. These divine emotions include empathy, compassion. Empathy is feeling what other people feel. Compassion is the desire to alleviate suffering. And then from that compassion is born what is called love. And love in action is healing. So shift from emotions that are damaging, such as hostility, fear, anger, depression, guilt, shame, mistrust, to divine emotions. Divine emotions connect us to the web of existence, the web of life, and all of that. So shift your emotions to divine emotions. That's number 2, awareness-based technique. Number 3, focus on the present moment raw experience. Instead of interpreting the experience, focus on the raw experience in the present moment, what is also called metacognition. Be aware of experience without interpretation as it's happening. And, the experience could be anything: a perception, a color, a thought, an emotion, a sensation, a sound, all of that. But you can choose any one focus of experience and put your attention to this. This is what is also called mindful awareness, or mindfulness in general. So, by the way, there's a film out that I co-executive produce with Jewel called the Mindfulness Movement, and you can check that film out by going to mindfulnessmovement.org. So that would be technique number 3. Focus on present moment raw experience. And then that is mindfulness. And then the 4th technique would be develop an attitude of service to others. So the more we develop this attitude of service to others, the less anxiety we feel about ourselves. And that less anxiety translates into biological self-regulation through what are called feedback loops, cybernetic feedback loops in the body. Every system in the body has a feedback loop. Endocrine system, immune system, they're all part of what we can call the healing system. So I have mentioned now 4 very distinct processes: shifting of awareness from experience to the pure awareness of having the experience, cultivating divine emotions, focusing on present moment experience, and service to others. But now let me share with you something that I've shared before that is based on something called Polyvagal theory. So this would technique number 5, which includes many things, incorporating the Polyvagal theory. If you want to know more about the Polyvagal theory, check it out, Google it. Dr. Stephen Porges from Indiana University has authored or spoken extensively about the Polyvagal theory, how the vagus nerve, which is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, is the self-regulating nerve in the body, or part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which allows more flexibility, resilience, and flow. And the vagus nerve is can be stimulated through many maneuvers. There is breath, for example. If you slow down your breath and you breathe deeply, any of the pranayama techniques that you can use to slow down your breath and breathe deeply will increase vagal stimulation and improve self-regulation in the organs of your body. So, the movement of prana, which is a term used in Eastern wisdom traditions. Prana is a vital energy in the body and in the universe. And the movement of prana mentally is thought and emotions. The movement of prana biologically is perceptions and sensations. But they're both the same thing. So by focusing on the breath, by slowing down on the breath, and slowing down the breath and breathing deeply, breathing through the nose, breathing through the movement of the diaphragm, what is frequently called abdominal deep breathing. And I can share these pranayama techniques, there are many of them, but just slowing the breath and taking it to a deeper level and focusing on abdominal breathing will stimulate the vagus nerve and induce self-regulation, minimize inflammation, enhance your immune capacity, regulate your microbiome, on and on. So breath and pranayama is a key to both mental self-regulation, the movement of thought and emotions, and biological self-regulation, which is fluctuations of sensations and perceptions. But then there's a role for vocalization, in Eastern wisdom traditions and actually in Western traditions also. There is vocalization through chanting. The word enchantment means to become one with the infinite being through chanting, enchantment, oneness of existence through chanting. Gregorian chants, mantra chants, humming chants, hum, om, feel your chest vibrating, feel your heart vibrating, feel your body vibrating through chanting. And then there's asana, yogasana, which are seats of awareness, approximately 35 of them or more. There are hundreds, of course, but yogasanas are standing postures, sitting postures, forward bends, backward bends, twists, and lying down postures. But these are seats of awareness that stimulate different selective branches of the vagus nerve, bringing self-regulation, homeostasis, and decrease in inflammation to different organs of the body. And when you combine asana with what is called drishti, gaze, with kriya, which is a regulated breathing coordinated with the different aspects of body awareness, with bandhas, which are ways to selectively stimulate different aspects of branches of the vagus nerve, bandhas, kriyas, yogasanas, and then combine that with mantra meditation, which is dharana, and then dharana and dhyan. Dharana means focused awareness, and dhyan, through drishti, bandhas, kriyas, you actually begin to self-regulate both mental activity, which is thought and emotion, and bodily activity through shift in sensations and perceptions. So understand the polyvagal theory. You can read about it on Google. Check it out. Check out the research yourself. Check out choprafoundation.org and our library. And look up all the research on inflammatory storms, cytokine storms, how to minimize them through lifestyle, including sleep, deep rest, meditation, movement, yoga, pranayama, healthy emotions, social intimacy right now through technology, through FaceTime, through Skype, paying attention, focusing on appreciation, affection, and acceptance of what is. All this will help you to minimize what we call sympathetic overload and maximize parasympathetic self-regulating ability. There's a lot here and a lot we can do to minimize systemic inflammation, maximize our immune capacity. And this includes, by the way, a good, healthy diet which has maximum diversity in plant-based foods, which is not contaminated by inflammatory products that go into much of processed food. So minimize inflammation, enhance your immune capacity, and focus on your spirit, your awareness, your consciousness, which is at the deepest level, independent of the ups and downs. Everything appears on the screen of consciousness, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and it appears on the screen of consciousness. It lasts unpredictably for a short time or a long time, and then it dissipates and everything returns back to homeostasis and self-regulations. Reboot, reset, regulate, and resurrect your biology by connecting with your spirit. Your spirit, your awareness, your consciousness at the deepest level is independent of all experience. Maximize your capacity for well-being by getting in touch with that part of you which is timeless, which is infinite, which is borderless, which is irreducible, which is causeless, which is self-regulating, self-evolving, and self-healing. Elsewhere, we have called this self-directed biological transformation. I thank my colleagues, Rudy Tanzi, Paul Mills, Michelle Williams, Ryan Castle, William Bushell, and extraordinary science writers like many that are helping us, but also science writers who are bringing attention to the integrative approaches to maximize our ability to heal ourselves. This is very important at this time. So I thank all my colleagues for bringing this information together. And I'm very grateful that we have the ability to share this information with you. So once again, check out choprafoundation.org, Chopra Library, or Ishar, ISHAR, online.org, ISHAR, online.org. I will bring you more information and more techniques in the following days. And it's important right now to observe physical hygiene, but mental hygiene is equally important, and returning to spirit is the most important. So I see that you have some comments. Kiara is saying, a prayer for all doctors and healthcare workers in the world. I say amen to that. Yes, lowering anxiety is helpful for healing and evoking biological healing. Veronica says, thank you for these important reminders. Yes, let's live these reminders. It's enough knowledge without experience is useless. and experience without knowledge is confusing. But knowledge and experience going together can create wonderful things for us. So before I end, I also want to thank the science writer Maureen Seberg. She writes for Psychology Today, for the science section of Medium, and also for Scientific American. And Maureen Seberg recently published this article in the science section of Medium. And here's the article. It says, Elite Task Force assembles to urge addition of meditation and yoga to help fight COVID-19. Check out her article by Maureen Seberg in Medium, the science section. And check out the URLs I've given you here. And Donna Eldridge is saying, I'm listening to new 21-day meditation. Now, yes, the new 21-day meditation is offered free globally right now in this moment of collective intent to heal ourselves. So check out 21-day meditations too. Go to chopracentermeditation.org. Thank you so much, and God bless.